Everyone is excited to signal their lights on and their television off at the touch of a button, communicate with their kitchen appliances, fly drones, drive cars, and cell phones. Now that is the power of AI, artificial intelligence. AI has the potential to transform societies and economies around the world with applications in various fields such as healthcare, agriculture, finance, and many more. Despite its promises, there are also concerns about the potential risks and challenges posed by AI. Now, these concerns are particularly salient in the context of Africa, where AI development is still uneven and faces various challenges. In our discussion today, we will explore Africa's current state of AI development, the challenges and opportunities for AI in Africa, as well as the ethical and social implications of AI for the continent and the world at large. We'll also examine the potential benefits and threats of AI for the human race, including its impact on employment, privacy, security, and more. On this edition of The Square, we hope to gain a better understanding of the role of AI in shaping Africa's future and the global society at large. Thank you for coming along today on The Square. I am Kemini Amano. With me here are Joshua Okeme. He is CEO of Analytics Intelligence. We also have Muyiwa Ogundiya. He's lead consultant at Starstep Digital, also a Lagos-based digital solutions agency. And then over Zoom, we have Malik Afegwa, who is the CEO of Slick City Media. Gentlemen, you're welcome to The Square. I want us to begin our discussions from how you gentlemen use AI in your businesses. So start off with you, those of you in the studio, and I'm coming straight to you, Muyiwa. Tell us how you are how your business uses AI to provide solutions.
Thank you very much, Kemini. So for me, I use AI a lot, and I think with the advent of OpenAI's ChatGPT, which launched last year, December, I think it has been my usage of AI has increased tremendously. And for example, one of the things in my organization, we do solutions, and there's a particular solutions we're building. And, for some documentation that I typically write, that would take me a few hours to write this documentation. I was just able to go on ChatGPT, type in the prompt, and boom, within 10 seconds, 30 seconds, I got the answers. And I can say, okay, from there, I can start editing, adding, and subtracting. I also had like a document, like a legal document I wanted to draft. And I had some friends that I had told, but because the person was busy, it was a bit delayed. So I just went on ChatGPT, asked the question, it gave me the answer. And when I got it, just in mere seconds, I presented it to the disease fellow, and the person asked, who helped you do this thing? I said, okay, it was, like a friend. And then the person said, okay, it's actually very good. The person made a few edits, and I had my document there. So that is some of the potential of AI. Things that could have taken you 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, you can now do in a matter of minutes. And we're only getting started. It's going to get better. The technology is going to get better. The technology is going to get more advanced. Believe it or not, we are still in the infancy stages of a lot of these AI tools that are already blowing our minds.
And I want us to go into that a bit, but let's pick some opening comments also from Joshua. Joshua, your company provides data solutions for businesses. And so tell me, how you inculcate AI in that.
Okay, great. So we provide data analytics solutions for businesses, and that we use AI to automate that process and kind of make that, faster, easier, and more accessible to even less technical people. For instance, an organization wants to know how they are doing with Google Analytics, how their site is converting into sales, for instance. And not everybody can understand what you see in Google Analytics and Adobe Analytics, right? So we have a conversational AI data assistant that we have been able to build and that we use to help businesses easily gain insights from their data through data assistant. And it just plugs into the various sources of those data and gives out that.
And that's all AI at work.
Yeah, that's AI at work, yeah.
Communicating and making things simple for the business.
Exactly.
I see. I'll move on to Malik now. Malik, I've seen some of the brilliant work that your business, which is a media tech company, has done. But share with our viewers how you use AI to do the things you do at Slick City.
For me, it's more like a tool. It's more like a tool to mostly envision and also to start off a project. So I use it like for generating arts. I use it like to create storyboards for my commercials and films that I do as well. And it's gone mainstream since December when I really started doing it for the public. And it's been amazing, like, because of the fact that in the past I would have to use just Photoshop or maybe Blender or other apps to create certain things. But today I could just use prompts to start off that and go from there, and it's just been really amazing.
But I want us to and where you mentioned that we're still at the infant stages of AI. I don't know if you mean the entire world or just here on the continent. But before we get into the differences of that, if you're able to share with us, how has AI evolved over the last decade or maybe even 2 decades? Since the invention of mobile phone, perhaps. But talk to us about how you think it has evolved over time.
Very much. So when you look at, we are in 2023 now. When you look at in the 90s, AI is not something that I just came in. It's something that has been existing for many years. Mm-hmm. Around the 60s, that's when the term AI was conceived.
I see.
But you see, the technology has been getting better and better and better and better. So before AI was just simple, what you'd call simple dialogue trees. It basically, like maybe for those who are familiar with developer terms, mm-hmm. if-else statements. Okay, if an information comes here, you can do this or you can do that. Can do this or you can do that. So with time, the technology has gotten more and more advanced, We've seen new developments, and with the rise in semiconductors, a lot of all these, because to do AI, you really need a lot of information. Mm-hmm. And the basic thing about AI is basically training. You have this computer that you feed information into, and then the computer takes it and then processes it and then gives something out. Right now, how it does that is what has been. That is the basic way of how artificial intelligence works. Okay. Now, how that process works has become more efficient over time because we've had technology, the semiconductors get more powerful. For example, we talked about ChatGPT now. Mm-hmm. It is basically trained on around 45 terabytes of information. That is basically the whole internet. So what happens when you go to an app like ChatGPT is you answer a question based on the things it had been trained on. It then looks, okay, what does this thing sound most like? It picks up the information and tells you what most likely the information publicly available is going to give you. Okay. So, and of course you had a lot of all these venture capitalists that mm-hmm. support AI startups. AI in itself there are not many profitable AI companies right now in the world. Right?
I wonder why. But maybe, let me make a note of that, why there aren't, because in my mind, AI companies are like those making all the money right now. So we'll look at that. But Joshua, where do you think Africa is in, the ecosystem of AI development?
Well, I think Africa is still in the infancy stage. It's a good and a bad thing at the same time, in the sense that it's growing, it's developing, and we will get there, just like every other area, almost every other area of development. AI will not be an exception due to the peculiar circumstances around Africa, right? So we have some things that are, one of the major challenges I believe Africa is facing in terms of getting to where it needs to be with AI is the lack of data. AI is useless without data. It's like powerless. It's I don't want to say it's garbage in, garbage out, but AI relies on the power that it gets from data to give you any sort of value. And because we have not developed our databases, we don't have data segmented, clean, kept, both in private and public institutions, that kind of limits how close we can get in terms of development in AI. Okay. So I think that's the starting point for Africa. And I want to sound positive. I believe we're getting there soon.
Very well. Malik, what other challenges would you say that AI development faces on the continent? I mean, citing Nigeria as an example, what do you think are the challenges here?
First of all, is actually understanding the tech. It's very key for us to understand what we're actually going into. And he said it as well. Data is very key. When it comes to when we're trying to get data off this AI computers or AI generators, there's a lot of bias. So for instance, if you type in a prompt that doesn't have any race in it, you're not going to know a black person. You're not going to be an African, you're going to be like some foreign person. If you type in black boy, and African, we're going to get two different prompts, like two different results, and it's very, very biased. So when I did the Elders series, when I did it last December, I literally had to train these machines of what black people look like, or what the skin looks like, what our outfits look like, because the kind of data I have is what you understood what Africa is, and Africa and the media is not really what you like to see. So that is there, that data set, using data into it, and also understanding the actual tech that we're using, knowing how to use it responsibly, like what are the ethical sides of it, and how do I use this thing, because transparency is very key with every new technology that we're using now. And this is new, and it's up to the users, to understand the best way to use it for the public.
I see. Let's take a few of these challenges one at a time. I want to start with providing the ecosystem that AI would need to properly, the industry would need to properly flourish on the continent. I'll take Nigeria, for example. I know that Nigeria has the AI regulation, I believe, the NAIR. I don't know if any of you in the industry have heard about this regulation. Do you know about it at all?
Regulation
to try and grow the industry. This is something they call the NAIR. Is this something you even know?
Yeah, I know about NCARE. NCARE is a National Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics, managed by NITA, National Information Technology Development Agency. And I believe we, as an organization, have even played some roles in developing some policies for artificial intelligence for NITA and of course NAIR, like you said. And they are still working on the framework. They're trying to push it and see how we can get a regulatory framework around AI. And I think that's a very important baby step. Maybe I shouldn't call it a baby step, but a very important step that we will take as a country and as a continent to get into that point.
But when I hear about the fact that there's this regulation that's supposed to do this. It's been there, I think, since 2019. I may be mistaken. But if it's been there that long and we're still having discussions about, it's a baby step.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like then we have made a lot of progress for a country that is seen as the hub for, tech companies or on the continent. Would you say so?
Yeah. And I think I agree with you. Thing is, there's a lot of enthusiasm about it. There's a lot of training going on. As a matter of fact, as an organization, we provide training in AI, and it's something that we're doing, and we are looking for more and more international organizations to partner with us to really democratize AI. But there are a lot of gaps, and one of them is the resources, infrastructure. We've not gotten to that point of having the infrastructure that will help us with AI. AI requires high-speed internet, cloud computing. There is a lot of resources, compute power that is needed to actually. So when you go to ChatGPT, for instance, and you ask it a question, you have no idea of how many bags of data it's ransacking to bring out that answer it's giving to you. That requires a very high compute power, and we don't really have the resources to or let me say we've not taken the steps to invest in resources that will build data centers where that can house this and where we can store this data and where this thing can be harnessed from. I think that's one of the things that is really limiting us. When you talk about smart city projects, for instance, that is another thing. A lot of people have taken cameras at the airport, AI working in different government agencies, people throwing refuse on the road, and AI being able to. There are not cameras everywhere to even get that data and pass it to where it needs to be taken. So there's a lot of infrastructure. There's a huge infrastructure gap. We may have the regulatory framework. We may have the people that we are training, because we are still training people, both privately and publicly. I believe the government is doing something, but I know a good number of private institutions and companies that are actually trying to train people in data and AI. So there's a lot of that going on, but we need, like I said earlier, we need the data.
We need the data first,
because the AI is useless without the data. Then secondly, we need the infrastructure. We need the infrastructure to pull that data and make it work. So when we're able to put these two things together, and they involve huge funding. So we need investment in AI, huge investment in AI. It's not seen as something that is much of a priority, but it is, looking at where the world is going to. And I believe that's one of the purposes of having this conversation.
And I want to ask you where the world is headed, but we'll do that a little later. Let me go back to Malik. And Malik, let's talk about the bias and discrimination that you mentioned earlier. I know you touched a bit on it, but explain to us in what form, the existent AI technologies are biased and discriminatory when it comes to, people from, the African continent.
Honestly, you can't even blame it. But the truth is that it's getting better now. Because obviously, the more data it understands and what kind of data sets it gets things from, it understands a lot better. As of last year, July, if I was to put a prompt in to try and get a black line to do something, it would be something really manual compared to if I was to get like a foreign person. As of December, it would be, if I say an African man, you would see an image of a poor African man. You see an image of an African man in a village holding a cutlass, wearing slippers. When you put black man, you will see an African American. I was trying to understand what's the difference. What black people? Why is that? Why the disparity? So when I was creating those things, I literally had to train, on different rules that Africans are like this. This is what we look like. This is what we wear. This is, on different levels. They have to create things from that, and they actually learned from that. Because I feel like it's also our responsibility to train it, because now we're not the creators of this tech at the end of the day. So we need to find ways to utilize it that favors us. We can't just be on the back burner and just wait for it to favor us or wait for them to do things to favor us. We need to find ways that we, make that happen. And that's understanding it, knowing how to utilize it for certain solutions. And yeah, that's what I've been doing. So I found ways, like for instance, I found ways to speak to it in a way that I could get the exact results that I want. And I found ways to train it. So even someone else in a different country is trying to get, it's already has that, already. So it's going to move from that. So we're going to get there. And like he rightfully said, it has to be data, just the right amount of data that we don't already have.
Very well. I want us to look at two things that you have mentioned. The first one being whether or not it's time for us to create our own, feed it with the kind of data that will, reflect who we are as a people, and where do we even start from there? Are there already projects going on similar to the things that you need in your industries, Malik?
I don't even think we need to create something entirely different. We need to be a part of what is already going on, so we can have the right amount of inputs in this. That's what we need to do. We need to be involved on the right level, that we are also decision making. We have the right decisions that favors our community, because when certain decisions are made, it doesn't favor certain demographics. So many things, like for the fact that we're Africans and all that, there's so many things that put us on the back burner. When some of this tech was available to the world, like it wasn't available to Africa for about a month or two after that. I used to wonder why all these things happen. So I just feel it has to do with us, being ready and really want to be involved, and for compliance sake, for for updating sake, just for that, because we're here. We can't just take what they give us. We need to be part of the contributors. If that makes any sense.
It does make sense, and I'll come back to you and pick up on that. But Muyiwa, tell us what some of the ethical issues could be the moment we want to be a part of, well, not really a part, but the moment we start to develop AI. What are some of the ethical issues that we should be considering? Because we've seen what's happening elsewhere. What should we be doing differently?
So I would like to bring the attention to like an image that went viral a couple of weeks ago, and that was of the Pope. And the image had the Pope wearing like a kind of winter jacket, looking kind of gangster. And, you know, a lot of people thought it was real. And there was another image around that time that also went viral. It was about ex-president of the United States, Donald Trump, getting arrested. Now, both of those images were not true, were not real, but they were AI generated, but they already gone viral before somebody somewhere was saying, oh, this is not actually real. So those are one of the ethical issues. We are going to now start seeing situations where people, bad actors on a state level, on a national level, on a state level, or on a private level, you know, committing frauds or impersonations. Like there's this particular track by a user called Ghostwriter. What he did was that they recorded a song, right, and they put Drake and Weeknd's voice over it, and it sounded as if it was Drake rapping. And the person put it up on Spotify, and that is one of the top charting songs right now on Spotify.
I see.
So I mean, Drake is just there looking, his voice is singing. Well, you know, no credit to him. So you have all these ethical issues coming up. So you could have situations whereby, you know, for example, in fashion, you could have maybe, you talked about data. Somebody in the, you have African creators, right? Somebody in the United States or maybe a place where AI is more advanced could just use the internet, go to an Instagram page, see a Nigerian creator there, take the images, go to an AI model, put the images there and generate some totally new content. And then he starts saying, okay, I have these African designs. But the creator is just there because he doesn't have the other exposure. He's already losing or he's already at a disadvantage in the international space. So those are some of the ethical concerns. And we also had, you know, in the country a few weeks ago, you know, on the political scene, we had like this news of, you know, there was a particular impersonation of a presidential candidate. So those cases are going to rise, right?
I see. I wonder how we deal with them. You are a media tech company. What are your suggestions about how to deal with some of these ethical issues that fringe on intellectual property, that's you know, fringe on morality? Because really, we've seen them all. What are your thoughts, Malik?
Well, luckily, I've been playing in this space for a bit, so I kind of understand compliance. I kind of understand responsibility that comes with technology. I just came back from a conference from Kenya a couple of weeks ago, organized by a company called Witness.org. They're an American company that they deal with disinformation, misinformation, you know, showing compliance, especially when it comes to artificial intelligence. You know, and because of the fact that we have political seasons, it's so easy to pass misinformation and disinformation. You know, so compliance, transparency is very key. So we're, you know, showing many ways of how to get fake videos, of how to, you know, tackle these things. Another company that approached me is called TruePink.com. It's a company based in New York where you get to sign your images that you create, kind of like an automatic electronic signage that shows you it was created by an AI, you know, and you see all the levels of edit that you do. So there's always transparency in it, because now this regulations and these things have to come into play because of the fact that all this tech is readily available to anyone to go out there and create. It's open source. You know, so you can just go out there and create an image of the president that is not doing what he's doing or saying what he's saying. But if you have tools in place for you to detect that this is created by an AI or this is not real, or there is a level of, you know, mechanics in this thing, then that would make us, you know, differentiate. Because we're at a stage right now where I'm showing you two pictures of a real person and an AI person. You can't even tell the difference anymore. You know, but I think these people that are creating this tool, we need more people like that. We need more companies to come and go to the back end and say, okay, we need to find ways to separate these two things. Because it's going to get worse. That's the honest truth. It's going to get worse. We're going to get people that don't mean well, because now art has to do with ethics, tech has to do with ethics, has to do with responsibility. Now, how many people are responsible to actually follow through with all these things as a human being, as people? So, but when we have things in place to, in a way, show that there's a metadata that shows this is AI, we'll find ways to tackle it. So that's what we're actually working on. I'm part of that team. We're trying to fight disinformation, misinformation, but it's not going to be usable. I mean, with that, and we're going to get there. It's something. It's a good step in place.
Joshua, one of the things that we also see in the ethical conversation is the fact that, there aren't current or many current laws that take into consideration AI development. Perhaps the framers of our laws did not think that we will get this far in life, and so there are no existing laws. While you say that the continent may be in its infant stages, there are still people like yourselves who are already up there in the usage of AI development. Would you say that governments on the continent should consider perhaps framing regulations that will deal with ethical issues when it comes to some of these apps and AI development, Joshua?
Yeah, thank you very much. So first, before I talk about what they can do, I'd say they should invest in it first. Let's start from there.
The government should invest in it.
The government should invest in AI. And when they invest in AI, then they can bring in regulations. And these are the things I believe they should consider when bringing in these regulations. Wide consultation of stakeholders across board, both home and abroad. Do your wide consultations, then get people who are specialized in this, specialists in both the area of legal tech and in the area of law, right? And those lawyers that have a very good understanding of technology, those are the people the government needs to actually sit down. Then experts across board, and people who have actually built these systems, the data scientists, the engineers, get them and have conversations with them, and it will give them an idea into how the system works. Because if you don't understand how it works, you cannot really regulate it. You can't regulate it. So when they do that, they'll be able to bring in these regulations. And I think the regulations begin from the building of these systems before we come and talk about the usage, right? And there's a lot that goes into that. But I think we haven't even gotten to the stage where we need to, the AI is outpacing the regulation. It's happening so fast. It's happening thick and fast. Every day we're seeing new things. Every day we're getting new feedback. So, but I think we're not yet at that stage where we need to prioritize that. It's important, very important, and I believe that NITA and NCARE have already started to take some steps in relation to that. Right. But yeah, that's what I believe the government can do.
Muyiwa, if AI is not being used maliciously, it's of great benefit to the society. What are some of the benefits that we see or derive from the use of AI in the delivery of public good, maybe, on the continent?
So one of the things that you can use AI for, there is what is called vision AI, that is the use of cameras, AI-imbued cameras, to be able to detect some things. They use it in the healthcare sector. Some people with skin disease, right? With the right kind of cameras, you can easily see, okay, this person, this skin looks like this might be a form of cancer, And so that is already, in some countries, that is already being deployed. So that is one of them. Then you also have I use the example of something like ChatGPT, right, that, it can save copywriters and a lot of people so much time, in terms of doing work that can take 3 hours. You can cut it down to like 30 minutes or even 10 minutes. So that is also there. Then you have things like for creatives, you can have tools like the image generators that can just help them. Okay, you have something in mind, you can put in a prompt, it can give you something, but from there you can work towards something. So I think we should think of AI as a tool, and with every tool, every tool can be applied good or bad, whether it's the carpenter's hammer, or is the doctor's thermometer. It can be applied for anything, whether good or bad. It depends on the person and how skilled the user is. So that is where we are in AI.
Recently, Google CEO said that they do not have a clear understanding of, AI, artificial intelligence, because it changes, like you said, Joshua, it changes every time. But where do you think we are headed? Where is the human race headed with AI development? Because sometimes it can be scary.
Yeah, good question. So I think there's a little bit of buzz and hype around it, and I believe the dust will eventually settle. It's like they all had a meeting and agreed that 2023 was going to be the year they would all release
something
everything.
on us.
So we're kind of overwhelmed in it, but I think the hype will come down very soon, and we'll eventually get to see how it will pan out. America is already working overtime on regulations, and I believe, like many other regulations we have done, we would take a cue from them as well, and put their regulations into considerations when making our own regulations, because obviously it started from there, and they would have a more perfect understanding.
I used to think that, after the whole world has gone crazy on AI, perhaps Africa will be the safe haven for everybody. We will retain the human race and retain humanity, but it would seem that we're going right along. But and Malik, that brings me to you. There are people who are concerned about how the future could be, or what the future could be once AI becomes center stage of our lives. People are afraid for their jobs. People are afraid for their security, although it could also enhance their security. They're afraid they'll be sitting by robots in the future and working in the same business. Malik, what would you say to people, perhaps like me, who entertain a little fear about artificial intelligence?
I don't think there's anything to be worried about. At the end of the day, it's still a computer. It's not autonomous. Yes, there might be some programs that might act autonomous, that might do tasks for you, but it's still not, because you still asked it to do it. You still have to put things behind it. Like, for instance, even the Drake song when I was chatting, a lot of people were saying, that's not Drake, that's not his lyric. You can still tell there's no human side to it. There is no emotion now side to the AI, so there's nothing to fear. So you can use that as a tool to enhance your current work rather than replacing it. I don't think it's a replacement. I think it's a way of enhancing it. Because if it's used as a tool to either start something, visualize, aspire with what you currently do, it makes things faster rather than someone else trying to replace you with AI. They're going to crash, because at the end of the day, you're still a professional at what you do. So you know how to use it better than anybody else. So you put yourself in the forefront. So that's just how people should think about it, like a tool for enhancements.
So we shouldn't be scared about conversations around transferring consciousness into the machine, and the machine started to think like people who have passed on, or people who want to preserve their consciousness. Now that's a really scary conversation, Malik. You're saying we shouldn't be worried about that?
At the end of the day, it's a choice. At the end of the day, it's a choice, because you get people that want to freeze themselves to 2000, because they feel like that's what they want to do. I don't feel like tech is going to go way beyond what we're thinking about. It's going to go way beyond what we've seen on sci-fi films. We're going to start mixing biology and tech and so many things. It's going to happen.
And I can't wrap my mind around it. And Muyiwa, you're telling us that's not where the money is. It seems that's where the money is for the future.
Incidentally, I think according to the World Economic Forum, that is one of the things, there's this Agenda 2030, and that is one of the things that I think the world is actively working towards, these technological enhancements of human beings. And it's going to come. I think that is one of the things Elon Musk is working on, how they can put a chip in your brain.
Yeah.
And so, it is, before all this Terminator-like future that people have been talking about, that, I was like, nah, it's not going to get there, it's not going to get there. But then I saw ChatGPT and I say, whoa.
Yeah, we're talking to machines.
We're talking to machines. I mean, I would send it a message and it should remember context like 10 times. I mean, like 10 sentences. Right?
Gentlemen, I know we have barely scratched the surface. But this is where we'll leave our conversation today. Thank you, Malik. Thank you, Muyiwa. And thank you, Joshua, for your time and insight on the subject matter.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
In conclusion, the importance of AI cannot be overstated. However, we must also acknowledge the ethical concerns it raises. Building an ecosystem that addresses these issues is imperative, involving collaboration among stakeholders and multidisciplinary approach. Ethical AI should prioritize diversity, inclusivity, human centricity, and ongoing monitoring and regulation to ensure responsible and inclusive development and deployment of this transformative technology. And yes, what you just heard was solely written by AI. Does it threaten my job? Not quite. Or at least not until there's some soul in its storytelling ability. But I'll tell you this, it does make my job a lot easier. Thanks for coming along on the ride on the square today. I am Kemini Amano. Stay safe and see you again soon. Bye.